video is already going up. I have a few other things to add to that. Those are stuff that video was things and opinions I've had for a while that I've always thought about. Like, might get assassinated. I think about politics. I know grammar. Stuff like that. That sounds dumb. Well, I feel like that there's always people that, like, imagine a stereotypical redneck on Twitter. It's always, Jesus was American, red, white, and blue. Like an eagle on their shirt. Those are the type of people that they're so proud of their country, they don't want change. They want it to stay despite the fact there was flaws. There's always flaws in everything, but you can still make things better. You never make something perfect, because that doesn't exist. Nothing's perfect. But you can still always make something better in some sort of way. You can find an opinion that everyone likes. There is such thing as what everyone can agree on. That is possible. And you can find that. You can find ways to make things better at all times. Because you could do something that has a bigger majority of people liking it, but there's always other opinions, and you can base some more things around those ones, and then you make it slightly better for the other people, but maybe worse for others. You still made it better, but you also made it worse, because everything's an opinion thing. But to make something truly better is getting something that everyone can agree on. There's not much of that, though. If there was a politician talking about what I do, saying we need to change things, like in government and education, they would not take too kindly with that. They would not appreciate any of the stuff you would say, because that'd be change. It's changing how the country they're so proud of is. But the only reason stuff like this happens is because people don't want change, even though it's a good thing. People are scared of change, and people get too nationalist sometimes. They like their country too much to change it from how it already is. They want it to stay the same because that's what they believe their country is. So if you change it, it's like a different country, because your country didn't believe in that stuff, but now it does. That's not your country. That's a new country with different beliefs and politics. If there's definitely going to be many people in the future, if I were to be a politician, there's definitely still going to be many people that will have arguments that aren't even like arguments. Because if you're in an argument with someone that you view as slightly less smart, then you'd probably think that because you don't like their opinion. And a lot of times I'm in arguments like that, and they don't say actual reasons. I give them reasons so many times that I have to repeat because they don't listen. But those people say their reason, and then they just repeat it, like, oh, because, or I like that because I like it. I said so. It's good. Why? I said so. It is. That's not an argument. You're just reiterating what you've already said. You show you don't have any points to make. That shows it's a bad argument. If you have nothing you can use to fight for your argument, it's not worth fighting. How can you have an opinion, but you don't even want to find any way to keep it? If you know how to argue, if you know how you can protect your argument, how you can fight for it, keep it, do it. But if you don't, learn or change. But people are instead always so narcissistic. Everyone has some form of narcissism. If you hate yourself, then that's really the least narcissistic you can get. There's depressed people, they're not very narcissistic, but everyone else that's happy has some form of narcissist, because that just means liking yourself. Usually it's an insult, meaning you like yourself too much to even notice there's anyone else there. But in a way, you wish stuff happened to you instead of anyone else. And everyone has some form of sympathy, like if there was a room, they were put there with someone else they loved, and they had to choose which one goes. It's very possible they would sacrifice themselves for the other person. Everyone has some form of sympathy, but if you saw like a hypothetical thing, the two people are in a room and you are thinking, man, if that happens to me, I would definitely want to survive. That's some form of narcissist. You're caring for yourself and you like yourself. That's technically that. And people can take it to a bad degree. Everyone likes themselves. That's good. You like yourself too much to even notice or care there's other people. That's bad. And most arguments are caused because of arguments that are based around, like, you change your argument, that's good. You're adapting, you're evolving, you're finding good ideas. If you stick with it just because it's the argument you made, you're a bitch. You're a narcissist. That's bad. And I've dealt with so many arguments like that. I've never had an argument that wasn't like that, where it was versus a narcissist, versus a person that thinks they're the main character and sticks with their argument only because it's the one they made, so they think they're better than everyone else, so they keep their arguments. I've never had an argument with someone that wasn't like that. If you keep an argument just because you thought of it, that's bad. If you have an argument and you keep it because you believe it's genuinely good, that's good. If you both have good arguments, just settle it. Agree to disagree. You both got good things. Like, think of capitalism and socialism. Communism and socialism. Capitalists hate both of them. However, if you actually look closely, you can see communism is not bad. Fascism is bad. And most communist countries are fascist because they don't know that in communism, it's about everyone sharing everything and no one being greedy. You don't own your own things. Everyone does. You don't become a narcissist. You're not greedy. And in socialism, you can keep your things because it's a government that's based around making the people happy and letting them live their lives. But many countries forget that communism is not that. They all think that instead of everyone sharing things, no one owns their own thing. They think no one owns their own thing, the government does. That's not how it works. Even in many forms of, like, many countries actually aren't even fascist and communist at the same time, because you have to be both of those to think you own everything. Many countries aren't that, and they think they still own everything because it's in their country. Even though you have citizens, you don't own the person, they're just of that country. That doesn't mean that the country owns the person. They are their own being, and they own stuff. You don't own it, they own it. That's the whole point of currency. You buy something, you own it, legally it's yours, and you can't say otherwise anymore because it's already in the law. Socialism is not something I'd really say because people just hate it in general. Just because it's another thing. I don't know any socialist countries. I don't know anywhere that's actually socialist. Social is the crowd of people. The people, your citizens. It's for the people. It's not communism or fascism. But people think that just because it's not capitalism. Neither of them are bad. What people think they are is bad, but that's not what they actually are. Like, I was about to make the similarity of, oh, that's not my middle finger. You thought it was, though. This is the actual thing, and here's what you thought it was. It's not even that. It's literally, here it is, and you want to imagine this, but it's this. It's not even close. You can see they are completely different if you just look deeper. Capitalism is always described as bad. Before I even learned what forms of government were, I didn't know there was like a line where there was things like socialism, communism, capitalism. Those are the only ones I even know. But communism, it's always shown as the bad thing. Capitalism is shown as good. But before I knew what governments were and how forms of government work, I didn't know those were on a scale that you could put a country. So I just saw communism, bad people, fascist, Russia, and then capitalism. They take your money. It's all just about the people who have the most money are the most important, and the people who don't have any are bad. That's a not very good belief. Like, socialism does not really exist. I don't think there's any actual socialist countries. I want to know if there is, but I've not seen any of them. Communism is always seen as bad because it's mixed in with fascism so much. All because Russia was fascist, but it was also communist, and they are the main communists. That's why they're called the Reds. You think of red, you don't think Russia, but it's actually Russia, because the USSR main color was red. But you would imagine communist if you heard red or commie. Commie is a communist country civilian. Red is kind of that, but it's mainly the USSR. But you intertwine those. And capitalism is taking, like, they all have some forms of narcissism in the government. All the communist countries I've heard of are fascist, and that's not good. North Korea doesn't even see themselves as fascist. They genuinely think they're only communist when knowing what they do. They don't know that communism doesn't involve being a dictator. That's fascism, but they say they're not fascism because that died out in World War II. It's not how that works. You're still fascist because you're acting fascist. You're a dictator, you're fascist. Dictator is like, because you got democracy, you got monarchy. Dictator is almost like monarchy. You stay there until you're dead, and sometimes they even have heirs to thrones. Not always, but usually they do. It's pretty much just a fascist monarchy. Dictator is somewhere on that line. There's a bunch of them. Dictator is one of them. And fascist is like that line of socialism, communism, capitalism. It's almost on there, but it can also intertwine with the other ones. It's meant to be alongside with them, but it's still the same line, even though the other ones don't do that. You could be socialist, but you can't be communist or capitalist. Choose one. Or if you want to, you can have fascism, but that's a bad one. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like these videos will get banned, like right as I wake up. These are opinions I genuinely feel, and I feel like they're good ones. I feel like these are opinions that should be listened to. Because this video was mainly of things you wouldn't think about. The other video is something you'd agree about. This one, you realize stuff. But some people don't like hearing about this stuff. They don't like it because it's political and it involves your own country. I haven't said a country specifically, but you can imagine your own country. I'm speaking English. And all of the English-speaking countries, capitalist. England, Canada, the US, Australia. I don't know if Canada and Australia really are, but I don't know what else they could really be. So I'd imagine they are. And maybe that's because they were influenced by England being capitalist. Especially since the English invaded the US. and that's why everyone speaks English, despite the fact that it's freedom, so there's no national language. You don't have to learn English, but society forces you to.